Hi everyone, I'm Johnny Bevan and I'm the police burnout coach. So I help police officers that feel overworked and overwhelmed. I help them get their energy back and start enjoying their job again without actually changing their job. And what I want to talk to you about today is decision making, because I think it's something that every day we're making decisions, aren't we? We are, whether it be in work, just all the time, our life is a series of decisions. And for some people, we really struggle making decisions. And I used to be one of those. Um, I used to find I used to get sort of quite overwhelmed with the amount of decisions I had. I used to get quite fatigued. I used to think I had all this stuff at work. So I work, I'm a coach, but also I'm still in the police at the moment. I'm in child protection. And I used to think I had these big decisions to make, and that would tire me out and overwhelm me. And then I come home, maybe I was doing stuff on the house, and I had those decisions to make. And I just think, God, I just get fed up with having to make decisions. And I have stuff with the family. But what I came to realize was actually what my problem with decision making was. I thought there was a right or wrong. Simple as that. I thought I had this belief that there's a right or wrong decision. And if someone else made a decision different to me, maybe I wasn't doing it right, or maybe they were doing it wrong. But what it did, it had me in this state of limbo. And what I realized was I always thought I was waiting to make a good decision, but often I just wasn't making the decision. In effect, what we do is when we're not making a decision, we are choosing not to make a decision. So I just want to talk to you about that today and about the tools I've used to help myself and others to make decisions. And a lot of it comes down to really addressing those beliefs about our decisions. And often it's that there is a right or wrong and that we don't want to get it wrong or we want to get it right. It's the same thing, isn't it, really? And a lot of people will say, especially those of you in the police, you will say, but there is a right, because if I make the wrong decision, someone could get hurt and someone could, die. And what I would just like to say is not all decisions are life and death. And what we do is we go to this extreme all the time. We always go to this extreme. But really, what we're doing is we're fearing making the decision. We're fearing, it's normally fear of making a decision comes into a fear of judgment or like a fear of failure. And then we end up procrastinating and not making decisions. And there's times when we've got all that information, we've got all the information, we still can't make it because we think there's a right or wrong. And what we fail to see is that sometimes by making the decision, and this is what I've seen in every circumstance, by making the decision and taking that sort of choosing that path and going down it, we actually get more information. So then you can argue, was that, even if it didn't get you to your desired result, was that a wrong decision? Because if it's got you to a point where you go, no, I need to change course, well, actually, you've got more information than you had before. And this is the thing. If you're a procrastinator, you're someone that fears making decisions, you won't be getting that information to help you move yourself forward. So often when you've got two options, I like to think that what is the worst that can happen? And often it's not as bad as we think. And then just pick one. If you really need to go out and get some more information, then go and get it. But often we've got all this information. Let's just pick one and go with it. And then see how far that takes us, and actually then use that information to then take us on the route that is going to get us to our result. And what you'll do is when you sort of adopt this approach, and you'll become a good decision maker, because you'll have sort of this trust and self-confidence. And when you don't when you don't think there's a right or wrong, and you don't fear other people's opinions, it's not that you'll just suddenly make decisions without consulting people. In fact, you will ask their opinion more. Because often when we think there's this right or wrong, we fear that if we've got a point of view and someone challenges that, we get quite defensive. But when you've dropped this belief that there's a right or wrong, you're actually more inviting of other people's opinions, because even though they've got it, you can then take that information and decide, am act on that, and you may not, but you don't make that mean anything. Okay. I think you're more, for me, what I find is you're more open to information. So you make better decisions. But also on the flip side, if someone does disagree with you, if someone does think, actually, if you decide on a certain course of action, someone says, actually, I think that's wrong, you've got your own back. So you're not caught in this limbo. You've made your decision, you know your reason why, that's really important, and you go with it. And if they're proved right and it doesn't turn out the way you thought, well, you don't use that as evidence to beat yourself up. You just use that to then use that information to then carry on along your journey and to make another decision. And really dispelling that belief that there is a right or wrong. And what I like to do with people is, when they've got this belief and they like to hold on to it, is just to show them what happens when they think there's a right or wrong. Because obviously right or wrong is very subjective. What I think is a right decision may not be what you think is a right decision. But when you shine the light of awareness on what happens when you think that, that's when you really start thinking, is it worth carrying on believing this? Because most people that I've coached, when they think there's a right decision, or they're thinking, I don't want to get it wrong, they often feel some sort of anxiety. And then the anxiety, so our thoughts create our feelings. So that thought, I don't want to get it wrong, creates anxiety. That anxiety then drives our action, because our feeling drives our action. And often that action is delaying decisions, procrastinating, maybe sort of become defensive. And the result is they don't make a decision. So when they think they don't want to get it wrong, they don't give themselves a chance to get it right, because they're not making a decision. And this is really the first step of change. If you're someone that wants to become a better decision maker, you have to shine that light of awareness on the beliefs that you have at the moment about decisions. And that's the same with anything we want to change. I teach everyone the first step is awareness. So if you say, I want to become a better decision maker, you can't just go ahead and start making decisions, because you'll probably default back to your old way. You have to shine a light on what is happening right now. Why do you procrastinate? Why don't you make decisions? And then what you'll probably uncover is these beliefs around you don't want to get it wrong, and you can explore why you don't want to get it wrong. And then what you'll do is you explore your fears of failure, your fears of judgments your fear of judgments from others. And then when you start working on that and dispelling all that, then it all falls into place. And you start seeing another way that you can think about these decisions, and then you'll feel very differently, and you'll take different action. You won't procrastinate. You'll actually make decisions, therefore get more information and become a better decision maker. So the beliefs I adopted were simply that there is no right or wrong decision. I'm just gaining information. It is as simple as that. And sometimes I know when I'm in a situation where it's something really new to me, those old beliefs will come in, because they're there to try and protect me. Because if I think there's a right or wrong, I don't make a decision, I don't fear failure. Once I'm aware of them, I can then just move forward and make those decisions. And I can then start cultivating these new beliefs of, I get to my end result quicker when I make a decision. And you must find out what feels good for you. But if you think there's a right or wrong, just watch yourself in that moment, and just notice what you do. Notice how you're maybe not making a decision, and notice what new information you've got. And just think, and I always like to ask, if failure wasn't an option, or if no one was ever going to have a negative opinion of your decision, which one would you make? And that's normally the one to make, because that's often, like I said, what we fear, that fear of failure, that fear of other people's opinions. And that's not necessarily going away, because that's very hardwired into us. That is, we are designed to want to be part of a tribe, and to not fail, because failure could mean injury and death. And that's really this hardwired circuitry. So we just want to be aware of it and notice that actually in this modern day with most decisions, it doesn't really matter. And actually making decisions gets us closer to where we want to be. So the last thing I'd say is doing this has had such a profound effect on me. It's helped me in my work, a lot more productive, make better decisions, and become a lot less defensive because I'm willing to hear other people's opinions, because just because they got a different opinion, I know there's no right or wrong. Their opinion is just right for them. But I can listen to it and I might take information which might have an impact on my decision. So I'm a lot less defensive. Because when we're defensive, we just feel we're under attack and it becomes about us and suddenly not about this decision we're making. And it's had a profound effect in my home life because now I don't get decision fatigue. I don't, because I know I can just make the decision. I know, because I know I'll have my own back and I'll handle the outcome. And if there's two decisions, let's just choose one. Let's see where that takes us. And then with that information, let's decide where we're going. And I said that was the last thing, but really the last thing I want to say on decisions is making decisions ahead of time will stop the procrastination and fatigue. So when we make decisions ahead of time, we use like a different part of our brain really, and we make decisions that are better for us. Now this could be for anything. It could be for, just say you're someone that overeats, overdrinks. If you rely on making that decision in the moment when you come home from work, say you're stressed and then you come in and you're overeating, if you leave it to the sort of moment to make that decision, you're probably always going to make a decision that doesn't benefit you because you're using that sort of primitive side of the brain, that brain that has all the desire. Actually, when you make your decision ahead of time, you can take into account all the circumstances. So you make better decisions. And the more decisions you can make ahead of time, you have more energy to actually carry out the actions, because you don't realize that our brain, they say, uses about 20% of our energy. So when we're stuck in this decision, like going over and over stuff, that uses a lot of energy. And this is when a lot of cops, they say they feel this physical and emotional exhaustion. Now we have physical tiredness, but a lot of this emotional exhaustion comes from this staying in this state of overwhelm because they're struggling to make these decisions. So when you start getting clarity and being able to make decisions and being able to make decisions ahead of time, then the more you make ahead of time, the more energy you've got to do things. You've got more energy to actually carry out whatever you're doing. So yeah, that's it. That's decision making. If you want to know more, get in touch and just put any comments below. And yeah, it's honestly, if you get better, if you come and work on your decision making, it will open up so much for you. It will open up why you worry about other people's opinions, why you worry about failure, why you can't switch off, and all this sort of stuff. And it really is fantastic work because it will just give you a sense of peace and calm. So I hope that helps. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.